Number one, nowadays I have no idea what on earth would make me happy. When I try to picture my life in the future, I don't know what I really want or what would make me truly happy. This frustrates me, although on the other hand, I don't like that all of my ideas of what would make me happy are borrowed from somewhere else. My family and upbringing and whole cultural context, for example. I wish I didn't think so much about my future life, but I do, and I can't stop it. Thinking about it doesn't bring clarity, only more frustration and confusion, and even hopelessness and despair. I'm not okay with any of this. Okay, so yes, this is very, very normal. This is very, very natural. So even though you had a moment of self-realization, or you found consciousness or awareness, maybe you can witness your mind less dispassionately, more dispassionately than before. This kind of craziness, this insanity of the ego, it doesn't go away immediately. And what you're going through is very, very normal. Yes, all of the ideas of what would make you happy are borrowed. So in the separated state, we learn to derive happiness from these ideas. So from other people mostly, from love from other people, approval from other people, the notions of success, admiration, social status, all of that. We're looking at our friends and we picture them that they have happy lives. If only I had a family, if only I had a child, if only that, if only that is that. So in reality, what this is that it's just a refusal to be happy right now. Because the mind the mind refuses to be happy. It wants to be happy in the future. But in the future, it's always now again. And after you have satisfied, after you have achieved what you thought you should achieve, and then after some time, after the satisfaction is exhausted, you're looking for another way to be happy. So unless you can be absolutely happy doing absolutely nothing, you cannot be truly happy. It doesn't mean that you should do absolutely nothing, but you are observing this tendency of the mind to always go into the future for your happiness. And there's frustration, as you said, associated with it. Yes, so that's frustration is frustration of letting go of this irrational, insane idea that there is happiness for you in the future, that there is something that you can do that will make you happier. And this frustration is oftentimes also coupled with fear, because the letting go of the dreams about the future is scary. I mean, the deeper you fall into the present moment, the more of the fear of the unknown manifests. So it's a different way to live, you see? So the mind will think about those things, don't pay attention, just witness these thoughts. Those thoughts aren't true. You're not gonna be more happy after you achieved something, for example, maybe temporarily, but it has nothing to do with the spiritual progression, right? So the spiritual progression is how deeply you are happy right now. And as this happens, as you fall deeper into the present moment, all kinds of things arise. So frustration, fear, hopelessness, despair, yes, because the hope is illusory in a way, because hope is always so that there will be a better future than today, and there I will be happy. But if you cannot be happy today, then there is no reason to believe you will be happy in the future. That's what hope is. So hope is ultimately an illusion also. In order to truly sink into the present moment, in order to truly find the everlasting happiness of enlightenment, to truly go there, you need to abandon hope. You need to abandon fantasies about how else it could be for you that would be much better. And when that happens, you experience hopelessness and despair. And of course, you're not okay with any of this. I mean, nobody wants this. It's impossible to want this. It just happens to you. When you're exhausted of your suffering, when you're exhausted of your chronic discontent with your life, then that's when it happens. And you're experiencing, as it happens, you experience your frustration, the fear, the hopelessness, the despair. And it's fine not to be okay with any of this. That's, in fact, this is the only way that it can be. So it's totally normal. 2, I envy other people a ton. I envy the easygoing, I envy the smarter, I envy the more beautiful. I even envy people for having things and bring ways that I don't want to have or be. That is also very normal, because the reality is that you don't know how happy or easygoing other people are. I bet maybe you had a moment in your life or a period when you were pretty easygoing, but the things that you are going through right now, the hopelessness and despair and frustration that you're going through right now, they have always been there. It's not like they popped out just out of nowhere, because you had some spiritual experiences and read some literature and boom, there's despair, frustration. No, they have always been there. So people who live easygoing life on the surface can be deeply suffering inside, but they are not aware of it. Just like you have not been aware. It's not like you always envied people to this extent. So what happened is that you have become more in touch, you have become more exposed to your envy. So it has always been there, it's just been unconscious. So an envy is hatred. And as I say, it doesn't really matter, if you hate yourself or you hate other people, if you think you're better than somebody, or you think you're worse than somebody, that doesn't matter. All that matters is that you allow this experience, you allow this emotional experience, you allow your envy, you allow your hatred, because only by allowing it and experiencing it, you later realize that it had no substance, that it was not something that was rational. Envy actually is never rational. Envy is stupid, because if you envy somebody, you're basically saying that, oh, I would be much happier if I was like her. But if you were like her, you would have to be born the same way she was born. You would have to have the same childhood that she had. You have to have all the same experiences that she had to be the person that she is. You would basically be her, right? So you cannot be someone else, right? So it's not that your envy would go away. You would be a different person entirely. In reality, you don't even envy that person, because you don't know what's going on in the mind of this person. And you never know. What you envy is you envy your idea of this person, just like you have an idea of yourself as maybe somebody who's suffering greatly, or maybe somebody who's disadvantaged in life. And I'm not even saying it's true or not true, but it's certainly not static. Because one moment you could be disadvantaged in life, the other moment you could be privileged in life, right? But the idea that, oh, I am disadvantaged in life is static. And it does, and it resists, even if life tells you, no, look at that, everything is going great for you. But even at this moment, the people who have this idea, they still cling to it. They cannot recognize, for example, their changed circumstance. So because ideas are static as sets of beliefs, and just like they are not real, and so impression of somebody who you envy is also not real, because you envy your idea of what it's like to be that person. You cannot really envy another person, because you really don't know what it's like to be them. And I'm sure if you really had a very, very deep conversation with anybody who you even consider to be easygoing, right, and you would be open-minded and they would trust you enough to tell you greater detail of their experience, then you would be very surprised. People don't really know each other. They don't invest time to really get to know each other. They envy the surface level ideas of what it's like to be them and compare them to their own ideas about what it's like to be themselves, So just experience it and don't try to really rationalize it, just watch the mind ruminate on it and allow any emotion that manifests in the body. Number 3, I feel inferior to people all the time. I feel superior to people all the time. Oftentimes the same people. I feel inferior and superior to depending on the day or mood or context, I guess. So this is related to what I spoke about envy, but you can clearly see how irrational both inferiority and superiority is. I mean, both of them based on the mind's comparison, okay, so it's better to be like this or it's worse to be like this, and you can feel superior or inferior to a person on different days and sometimes even at the same time, because none of this actually has any substance. So all of this are just ideas in the mind that give rise to an emotional experience, and both the feeling of inferiority or the feeling of superiority, the humiliation versus pride and things like that, are mostly emotional experiences. Are mostly, the thoughts kind of have a supportive, explanatory role. That's why sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. It's like, why would what's going on with me? No, nothing. You're just going through this layers of unconscious irrationality that is very emotional, and you're experiencing all sorts of things, and you witness the mind's rumination and the stories that it gives you with regards to why you feel this way. So in reality, we're all equal. We're all absolutely equal. You can know that somebody's superior to you. For example, when I see a person who is much stronger than me, I know that he's much stronger than me. But you also know that an elephant is much stronger than you. But you don't feel inferior to an elephant, But with people, we are interconnected in this very deep social ties that are also created from the suppressed emotion and from a lot of messages about what's good and bad in society. What are the ideals that we should strive for? What people are respected, what people are disgusted. And society is very cruel in this regard. It's all based on a myriad of comparisons. And all of this is empty. None of this really has any substance. So you're kind of going through it, and it's fine. Number 4, I feel hopeless. Good. Worse, I feel trapped. I mean, you are going for an exit, slowly but surely, yes, but you gotta have to go through your layers of self-imprisonment and see them before you abandon them. And it's not a pleasant experience. As you get more insight into your psyche, why you are this way and how you are, you are beginning to get that, because I'm sure that a lot of things that you are describing here you haven't felt before in such intensity. I'm trapped in this shitty life because I can't kill myself, because whenever I tried, the survival instinct kicked in and I kept not dying. I'm trapped in this life, caged, and I hate it. That's good that the survival instinct kicked in and you kept not dying, because you really don't want to die. I mean, no being, no animal, no creation wants to die. Only ego wants to die. So only this self-image, only this idea of who you are, how you compare to other people, what you are as a person, wants to die, right? And enlightenment is a kind of a suicide, but it's a suicide that happens in your mind. It doesn't happen in reality. Only the identity, only the beliefs die, So that is why it is very, very often that there is a feeling, oh, I'm trapped, or I want to die, I can't live anymore. You know, people think about committing suicide and stuff. All of this is just bullshit. So if you don't do anything to your body, if you don't do anything, then you will absolutely survive this process. Absolutely. There is no question about it. But the temptation, the suicidal ideation, the thoughts about suicide, thoughts about homicide, they are very, very normal. But you don't have to react on them. You don't have to do anything about it. I mean, there could be hallucinations in meditation experiences. Yeah, I had a lot of those. I had a lot of suicidal ideation. I had a lot of meditation experiences where I was killing myself and I was killing other people. This has nothing to do with reality whatsoever. All this time I was just lying down and breathing normally. You know, and there could be fear associated with this and stuff like that. So the death of ego is independent from the death of the body. It doesn't have much to do with it. It's psychological death. It's not even death. It is this fear that exists in your psyche when you hear the word death. That's what it is. You know, it has nothing to do with the death of the body. And ego, it loves to confuse you, making you think that to be human is to have an ego, or the ego is your body. So when it wants to leave, when it wants to dissolve, when it wants to go away, when it wants to die, then oftentimes you feel a temptation to do something to your body, or you have some suicidal ideation, or you have some images of you hurting yourself and things like that, because that's the trick, that's the confusion, because you are the body, but when you identify with it, you think it's you. So that's why those images arise. It has absolutely nothing to do with the reality. You know, if you just don't do anything, if you don't let it pull your strings, if you just witness it and feel the fear or anger or whatever it is, and if you have some thoughts, you just witness it, they will go away, because it's not fun for the mind to pull your strings if it can't. It's only fun to make you do something stupid which doesn't serve yourself, like suicide or get into a fight or any kind of a stupid, violent behavior. It's only fun when it can pull your strings and you believe it and you play this game. As soon as you say, no, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to sit with it, then it gets hysterical, it tries to scare you, but sooner or later it slowly stops, because, you know, it doesn't work anymore. It's not fun anymore. Okay, number 5, I can't surrender, accept, or embrace anything either. Surrender, acceptance, it just happens. There's always resistance, you know. So just don't be afraid of resistance. Don't resist the resistance. You know, there's always fear. Don't be afraid of the fear. So allow yourself to see the agony, allow yourself to see the resistance, allow yourself to see how you don't want to experience all of that, and slowly you allow yourself to experience more and more. So it's a process. And I sense that surrender, acceptance, and embracement are just ego tricks the ego tries to use to gain the upper hand and control. You could say so, right? So if you pat yourself on the back and say, yeah, I accept, then it is an ego trick. I mean, the true acceptance is when you don't blame yourself for anything you experience and you allow yourself to experience everything. It's in absolute intensity, right? So if you feel anger, then you just allow yourself to experience anger, and then the anger goes away after some time. Right? And that's acceptance. And then it might come back and you allow yourself to experience it again, and then it will go away again. Right? And as you do this in life, as you do this in meditation, as just some other practices, you are slowly going deeper and deeper into yourself. And you slowly accept all of your experience deeper and deeper. So of course, when you are going through experience, you don't like it. That's resistance, sure. So accept the resistance, you know, accept that you don't like it, so what? So it's kind of a process where you go through the pain to ultimately see that both pain and pleasure are just created in the mind, and they were both in some way for your enjoyment, and there's really no difference between them. And of course, initially, as you approach that and you're terrified of your emotional pain, then of course it feels like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm not okay with any of this. I've been dragged into something I don't like. I can't accept it. Well, of course, yes. But the more and more you practice and the deeper and deeper you go, that you will slowly start to see that it's not as bad as your mind pictures it to be. And it goes from horrible to, well, it's not as bad, to when you can enjoy your tears and enjoy your fear, and slowly, slowly, slowly you accept all of that. Like, ooh, I know, if I surrender, accept, embrace, then I will have control and I feel better and get what I want, so I'll do that. Yes, exactly. If that's what you think, that's an ego trip. No, I mean, you can't, first of all, you can't decide to surrender, accept, embrace. Second of all, you will not have any control. It's about letting go of control. Because I don't know if you notice, but you actually don't control your emotional experience. It's not like, if you could say, okay, I don't want to feel angry anymore, or like, I don't want to feel hopeless anymore, then you wouldn't be writing this to me, right? So you can't. That's an insight right there. You don't control your emotional experience. You can only learn to be okay with it. Basically, these concepts sound like ego tricks, self-delusions people use in an effort to gain more control over life. Some people do use notions like acceptance, surrender, letting go to appear as they have control over life. So authentic, deep surrender hasn't happened, but they learn the spiritual terminology and they understand that things pass. And yes, I mean, some people can say very big words and deep surrender didn't happen. And also remember that those are concepts, they just describe the process of surrender. You can no longer decide to accept your emotional experience. You can no more decide to accept it as you decide to choose it. So it is through resistance, it is through pain, it is through discomfort, you ultimately see that none of that isn't that bad, actually. And the only thing that makes it really, really bad, including deep suffering, suicidal ideations, hopelessness and despair, is the mind. Is the idea that, oh, no, this is the experience that I really don't want to go through in this life. Okay, number 6, regret. I wish I could go back 5 years and undo every choice and action and thought I've had, because my life is so much worse than back then. Yeah, I'm more self-aware, blah, 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 who cares? Self-awareness doesn't seem to have any kind of value. It doesn't change my patterns, it just causes me more suffering because I'm more aware of my patterns as I do them. I regret ever meditating or doing therapy or anything other than pleasure-seeking, which is how I spent most of my life up until 5 years ago. If this pleasure-seeking worked for you so well, up until 5 years ago, why are you here? Obviously it didn't, right? Obviously it didn't work very well, right? Then yes, I mean, it does make your life worse. Initially, the early spiritual awakening is challenging because you are getting more and more aware of your patterns, and it brings pain and discomfort. But through that awareness, you ultimately liberate yourself from your patterns. Through that pain and discomfort it brings, you ultimately liberate yourself from your patterns. It's a path, right? The pleasure seeking didn't work for you. So you are here now. Now you want truth. Now you're at this point where you cannot pretend that you don't have any pain, and you cannot pretend that you don't have some work to do. You cannot pretend that you don't have some forgiveness to do for you. You cannot just sweep it all under the carpet and say, I'm seeking pleasure, and that's all I'm doing. And you can't, and you know that you can't. So there's no regrets here. What happened. There's absolutely no reason to ruminate and wish that you would do something different in the past. It's irrational, completely stupid. Well, first of all, you don't know that things would have been different if you did something in the past. You imagine that they would be, and you believe it, but you don't know that. You don't know that a decision that you made a long time ago, and if you made another one, that would have been better. You don't know how you would feel right now. Maybe you'll feel much worse. I mean, who cares? What does it matter? It's just a story. You're just imagining things that never happened, and you choose to believe that it will be better. You're just torturing yourself. None of this has any rational meaning whatsoever. The only thing that you know is that it sucks right now, right? The only thing that you know is there are these emotions, there are this suffering, there's despair, there's this hopelessness, there are feelings, right? And it's challenging because you're not used to them. You're not used to have so much negative emotion. It's challenging to sit with it, right? So forget the mind, forget this explanation, regret, like rumination, blah, blah, forget it. Take your awareness to how the emotion manifests in the body. Feel it, just with an intention to just feel it. Feel your body, feel yourself, feel it. And the mind will tell you all sorts of things, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Yeah, the monologue can get scary, it can get exhausting, but it's not the monologue that you're afraid of. If it was just words, there would be no problem. No, you don't like how it feels when there's this monologue about regret, for example, or something. So find what it is that you don't like. Like, take a curious approach. What it is in my body that I don't want to feel. Forget the words. Let them be in the background. What it is in my body that is uncomfortable right now. Where is it? In the chest? In the stomach? Somewhere you don't even know. Where is it? And have the intention to really feel it. Don't run away with your attention. Don't turn your attention away from it. Turn your attention towards it. 7. I keep looking for rescue. Rescue from therapy, meditation to save me, a partner to save me from my misery, money to save me from fear, etc. I hate that I'm so desperate for rescue, especially since it's a myth. Therapy, a partner, money, these things, when I've had them in the past, never rescued me, never saved me from my misery. Still, I can see how my mind seeks rescue still. Yes, I mean, it always will be. It always tries to avoid all the misery, all the bad stuff. But yeah, there will be no rescue. I mean, the misery needs to be lived through. The misery needs to be surrendered to. It's part of the path. When there's beauty, there's ugliness. When there's happiness, there's misery. Both are two sides of the same coin. Both are empty. I mean, the authentic peace and happiness lies well beyond them both, but both would need to be experienced. The other side of misery is always happiness. The other side of hatred is always love. Right now you're in pain, but there will be more love and bliss, and all of this will happen. But you do not control when and how. All that you can do when you suffer is accept the suffering, is to suffer. And of course, practices like meditation or psychedelics or people might be helpful too. They tend to intensify this process and make it quicker, right? But they don't change the nature of the process. So there is no rescue, there is just taking it all at the pace which is good for you, which is convenient for you. There is no magic button that you click and that's it, and you don't suffer anymore. You kind of have to exhaust yourself from it, because the deepest acceptance of yourself accepts everything. You will later realize that even the thing that you're going through right now is beautiful, and all your tears are beautiful. So just keep going, and it's gonna be all right. 8. Meaning. My brain keeps trying to make meaning out of things, like stories that make what shitty things happen to me are happening to me make sense or serve a purpose. This annoys me because A, I don't know why my brain does this. Why does it care about meaning or purpose? And B, it all seems like such dumb bullshit, and anyways, yet it keeps happening in my brain. I can feel it latching into ideas of purpose and meaning, even though the story just keeps changing over time. Why does the brain do that? Because our brains are trained to do this from very early childhood. So the brain clings to meaning or purpose because without, when you abandon meaning altogether, to realize that life is absolutely meaningless, completely, and to accept death is the same thing. Right? There is no difference. For as long as there is still meaning, you can live forever in some sense. For as long as there's still purpose, you can say, oh, I fulfilled my purpose for the generations to come. So the ideas of meaning and purpose are very heavily instilled societal ideas about what the society wants you to do. And sometimes they co-align with what you want to do. But more often they do not. Because when you do what you want to do, then you don't need meaning or purpose. When you do what gives you pleasure, even if there's a goal, even if there is some purpose, like I would like to accomplish that, right? But when you do it because you enjoy the process, and you don't need meaning or purpose, when you meet with a friend to play some tennis, you don't need a meaning or purpose to this game if you enjoy the experience. And of course you aim to win, but if you lose, you don't care, right? Meaning or purpose is part of our identity because we are trained to live to achieve, and as a consequence, never live in the moment. Meaning and purpose is what robs you of being able to enjoy the moment, whatever it is, and it robs you of the deepest happiness and stillness. So forget meaning or purpose. Learn to live for yourself first. Learn to do what you want to do. Learn to be free in what you want to do. And then later, when you are free, if you want to engage in some project because you decided to do it, then it's another matter. You can call it meaning or purpose, but it doesn't make life any more meaningful because whatever you achieve in it will go away. But when you know that, then you do it for pleasure. When you still stick to ideas of meaning and purpose, you are a slave of them. So yes, it is hard, but it's also something that you are slowly letting go of, and it's good. And it feels agonizing when you do that, and it always does. 9. I feel like I should do something big and important with my life, but I don't even know what it means to do something big and important anymore. Well, good for you. Exactly, what does it mean? What does it mean? It means that a lot of people approve of it and clap you. That's what it means. It doesn't have anything to do with what you really enjoy doing or enjoy creating. No. What if you like drawing little flowers and stuff, and nobody will... It will never make it big. It will never be a hit. So what? Do you live for yourself or do you live for other people? I also resent the feeling that I should do something big and important because I resent feeling like I should do or must do or need to do anything at all. Where does this come from and why won't it go away? It comes from your self-image, from your residual self-image, from meaning and purpose and the approval that you still yearn from other people. So, and you're right to resent it, yes. Learn to do things that you enjoy doing. 10. I have an acute sense that life is seriously fucking with me big time. Well, yeah, in a way. In a way, life is fucking with you big time, is fucking with your ego big time. But then ultimately you are fucking with yourself big time because you want to get rid of the part of yourself which is false to you. So you are speaking from like, something is fucking with me. No, this something is also you. You just want to become free. I swear, I always end up getting exactly what I want, sometimes belatedly, but I always somehow, some way end up getting what I want. And then I'm miserable. Well, yes, right? Yes, you get. And it's not that all things happen in life exactly how you want. No, but the way you perceive it is exactly how you want. Right? So, and you're miserable right now, that's also in a way what you want right now. And there's nothing wrong with it. Because you cannot arrive at peace without being both happy and miserable. You know, you have to know both. You have to know happiness, you have to know misery. You have to know love, you have to know hatred. In order to go through all of it and let it all go and be peaceful, you need to know both sides of each coin. So it's fine. And the feeling that everything happens to you exactly how you want and you get to experience exactly how you want is very natural. And then I don't want what I wanted that I got. What the fuck? Oh, well, yeah, kinda. I'm so frustrated and despairing and confused and hopeless and angry and resentful. Beautiful. You're wonderful. Wonderful development. Good for you. But I won't fall for that ego trick of fake acceptance because that's just another delusion, and I really, really, really hate delusion. Beautiful. 11. I'm bitter with that everyone is so full of shit, but they also get to pretend that they're authentic, and others pretend they are too, because they are so delusional they actually believe their own bullshit. The bitterness that you have towards other people, your anger to them, your hatred to them for it is also part of your trauma. So also you have to live through this bitterness. It's not that it doesn't bother me. I have zero bitterness to people that are full of shit and they pretend that they're authentic, and I love them the same, but it's not because I don't see it, but I made my peace with it. So I went through this whole same bitterness and hatred and everything, and I just experienced it until it became boring, it became empty, and I don't care about it anymore. Why do they get to be considered honest and truthful just because they're so full of shit they sincerely believe their own bullshit? You live in a society where everything is upside down, when the true human values are considered, weaknesses, and the highly pervasive, weird, unnatural, violent values, such as, nationalism or patriotism or feminism or meninism or whatever it is that separates people from each other, whatever it is that shames others into submission and creates violence and distrust and conflict, and they are considered virtues. It is a crazy, insane society. So get used to it. When you live in a mental asylum and you're, the only sane person there, then everybody will think you're insane. So that's totally normal. It's a part of the process. Later still it wouldn't matter too much. You would become ordinary. But for now, it is an important part of this process. Not fair. It's not fair. They all suck. And they're shitty liars who lie to me and try to manipulate me into believing their lies too. Not fair, yes. And some people oftentimes lie and they try to manipulate you. Yes, absolutely, yes. And the more you see it, the less they will be able to manipulate you. But if you get angry for that, right? When you absolutely clearly see all the manipulations, they then also make you angry. So the very clear seeing is very calm. So you will be free from these manipulations when you are called to them. But for as long as they make you angry, be angry. Yes, fuck that shit. Fine, yeah, applauds to you. 12. Everyone's just trying to sell me their own brand of bullshit, even my therapist. Correct. Then they get pissy at me when I won't buy it. Well, I'm probably also correct, but you probably are pissy at them for it. When I don't buy people's bullshit, they usually don't get pissy at me. Maybe over text, but in real life, mean, it depends on your own reaction, right? So you kind of have to work through your own pissiness towards them for that. But yes, I mean, you are correct. I felt the same way. Sure, fine. Yes, the unfolding continues. It's all good. 13. There's an incredibly annoying thing happening which has been happening for about a year. My brain argues with itself all the time. Yeah, it tends to do that. But the arguments are pointless because I just end up doing whatever it is that I feel like doing regardless of the internal arguments. Correct. And that is another point for you to consider, that all of these internal arguments are absolutely meaningless, right? So when you say things like, why is everybody so much better than me? Realize that it's just another internal argument. It doesn't matter. If you feel something during this time, yes, it matters. That's your experience. But these arguments, the words, if you can ignore the argument in your mind and then do whatever you feel like doing, which is wonderful, then why do you pay attention to the same arguments that's saying, oh, I envy everybody. It would be better if I was like them. No, it's the same argument. The only thing that is going on is that you have some feeling. So what is it? And feel it. But the envy, the words, it's the same argument. Yet the argument keeps happening. Yes, the deeper you allow the emotional experience, the deeper you allow your pain, the kind of subtler the arguments would become. It can take a very, very long time to get rid of the internal monologue and dialogue. And so that's fine. It is supported by the rest of the emotionality, the hopelessness, the despair, the mind's tendency to live in the past or in the future, the emotional needs that you have. Like, it is supported, right? So it goes away together. Yet they always amount to nothing. Planning in my head keeps happening all for nothing because I always just end up doing whatever I feel like doing at the moment. This is not an impulse control problems. No, I still control impulse. But the self-arguing and future planning, it all matters for shit, because I just end up doing what I feel like doing anyways. I know this, I recognize this, it's been happening for years straight. Still, the arguments and planning happens all day, every day, all for no reason, even though I know it's pointless. Why? That's because there's still this, even though you disidentified with your arguing, planning, I'm in control kind of thingy, but you are still observing it, and it still likes to talk, and it still lives on the foundation of wanting to be seen, wanting to be acknowledged, the validation, the emotional needs, and that's why you also feel hopelessness and despair and everything. So just keep going and experience more and more of that.